When Mortal Kombat 1 came out on the original Nintendo Switch back in 2023, it got a lot of flack for obvious reasons, deservedly so, but ever since then, NetherRealm and port studio Shiver Entertainment have been at work at least trying to make the Switch version of this game keep up. And while it still does not hold a candle to the Xbox Series or PlayStation 5 versions, the Switch version has come a long way. But now that the Nintendo Switch 2 is just 2 months away with a release date of June 5th, how will the increased performance of the Switch 2 impact Mortal Kombat 1? And is Nintendo really gonna charge $90 for the upgrade like some people are saying? That's what we're gonna talk about, but before we get to that, the like button is feeling kinda lonely. So do me a solid and hit that real quick. So here's what we know at this point about the Nintendo Switch 2. Number one, the Switch 2 is gonna leave the original Switch in the dust. Like you might have seen in my video yesterday where I compared Street Fighter 6 on the Switch 2 to the Series S version, that made it abundantly clear that the Switch 2 is at least somewhere between base PlayStation 4 and Xbox Series S in terms of raw power. Number two, the Nintendo Switch 2 is in fact backwards compatible with original Switch games, whether they're physical or digital. That means if you have Mortal Kombat 1 on your Nintendo Switch now, you will be able to play it on the Switch 2 as soon as you get the console. But what's gonna happen when you boot it up? That's the question. Is it gonna play exactly the same way as it does on the original Switch, slowdown and all? The Switch 2's backwards compatibility is, according to Takahiro Dota, if we try to use technology like software emulators, we would have to run Switch 2 at full capacity, but that would mean the battery would not last so long, so we did something that's somewhere in between a software emulator and hardware compatibility. So Nintendo here is confirming that the Switch 2's backwards compatibility is not the same way that it was done on 3DS or the Wii U. Back then, the old system's hardware was literally inside the new system, and that's what allowed, for example, the 3DS to run DS games. But that's not what's happening with the Switch 2. Takahiro Dota goes on to say, when we tried running Switch games on Switch 2, there were some where loading times became faster or game performance became more stable, so we realized that the overall gameplay experience could improve. So this pretty much confirms something that I've been saying for a while, and that is when you boot up the current version of Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch 2, you're gonna see some improvements, and that's before any patches. But these improvements are gonna be mostly just for things like the loading times and the frame rate. But that alone is going to go a long way to making the game feel better. Although it does look like Shiver Entertainment probably programmed the game in such a way that when you're in a match, it automatically is going to cut to 30 frames per second when two cameos are on screen at the same time. So if that is the case and it was programmed that way, then that's probably still going to happen on the Switch 2 until they patch it out. But by and large, most of the things that people found problematic with the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 1 are going to be fixed on day one simply by the fact that it's being run on more powerful hardware. But another major point that caused people to hate this port is the graphics. Obviously, updating the graphics to look like the other versions would require Shiver Entertainment to actually patch the game and update it. It's very possible that they could update it to look and run at least as good as it does on the Xbox Series S. But therein lies another question. If they do that, will those of us who purchased it on the original Switch, will we have to pay for this upgrade? We haven't really gotten any definitive answer to that yet, because it seems like some Switch 2 upgrades are going to be paid and others are not. The Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 upgrades will be free for those of us who already own them on the Switch 1, provided that we also have an active NSO subscription. But this only applies to a very select few games, it would seem. Other upgraded editions of Switch 1 games could vary from 10 to 20 bucks going off of yen conversion. WBGames still charge 10 bucks for skins, so something tells me that if this Switch 2 edition upgrade for Mortal Kombat 1 does happen, we're probably going to be paying for it. However, there are some rumors online going around that it's going to be 90 bucks. Dude, no. That's not gonna happen. If it does, I will eat crow and I will videotape it. The Switch 2 upgrades will either be free or they're gonna be anywhere between 10 and 20 bucks depending on whether there is new content added. So that's gonna be it for this video. I'm Switchblade, done.